Every level of movie villain, explained. Level 1. The Psycho. Max Cady. Max Cady represents the purest form of the psycho. His evil is internal, compulsive, and rooted in an unrelenting need for vengeance. After spending 14 years in prison, Cady emerges transformed into a creature of primal intelligence and religious obsession. Robert De Niro physically sculpted himself into this embodiment of hate, reducing his body fat to 4% and covering himself with biblical tattoos that mark his belief that he is a vessel of divine justice. He even paid a dentist $5,000 to grind his teeth, giving Cady a jagged, predatory grin. Every movement feels rehearsed by years of festering rage. Every word drips with scripture twisted into menace. In the film's climactic pursuit, Cady becomes less a man than a mythic plague, a self-appointed angel of punishment, proving that unfiltered obsession can evolve into holy madness. Anton Chigurh. Anton Chigurh is the embodiment of calculated chaos, a killer without passion, hatred, or mercy. He operates by a warped moral code defined by chance. His victims' lives are decided by a coin toss, transforming murder into ritual. Javier Bardem, who personally detested violence, channeled his discomfort into a cold, detached stillness that made Chigurh feel inhuman. His strange pageboy haircut and unblinking stare amplify the sense that he is something alien, an inevitable force rather than a person. Bardem's stilted speech and precise movements strip away empathy, leaving only process and outcome. When his victims plead, he doesn't react, he only enforces the logic of fate. His final car crash, random and senseless, exposes the irony of his philosophy. Even death's servant cannot escape the chaos he serves. Patrick Bateman. Patrick Bateman personifies the psychopath hidden beneath society's polished surface. A Wall Street executive by day and a sadistic killer by night, Bateman's violence stems not from trauma, but from emptiness. He kills to feel something in a world defined by image and excess. Christian Bale built Bateman from obsessive control, sculpting a perfect body, rehearsing emotionless smiles, and maintaining his American accent offset to stay within character.
He's been compared to Elvis Costello, but I think Huey has a far more bitter, cynical sense of humor.
His performance captures a man whose identity is entirely performance, a hollow mask held together by vanity. The business card scene, where envy drives him into near hysteria, exposes his true pathology, murder as compensation for inadequacy. Bale reportedly based Bateman's demeanor on Tom Cruise's unnerving friendliness with nothing behind the eyes. Annie Wilkes. Annie Wilkes exemplifies the psycho archetype through her delusional love and suffocating control. A lonely nurse turned obsessive fan, she imprisons her favorite author after rescuing him from a car crash, convinced she's saving him from himself. Kathy Bates approached the role through total immersion, isolating herself for days, journaling in Annie's voice, and even writing fictional fan letters to understand her warped devotion. The infamous hobbling scene, where she smashes his ankles with a sledgehammer, captures her blend of childlike cheer and psychotic dominance. Annie's menace lies in her conviction. She doesn't believe she's evil. She sees her violence as righteous correction, proof of her love. Bates's calm, sing-song tone and innocent mannerisms turn her home into a cell of psychotic affection. Michael Myers. Michael Myers defines the primal void at the heart of the psycho archetype. He kills without motive, emotion, or hesitation, a silent figure whose emptiness makes him terrifying. Nick Castle, not a trained actor but a film school friend of John Carpenter, was cast for his odd grace. Carpenter instructed him with minimal direction, walk from here to here, allowing instinct to shape the performance. This simplicity created a character that feels less human than elemental. The Mask, a blank white Captain Kirk face turned inside out, erases identity entirely. It reflects whatever terror the viewer projects onto it. In one iconic moment, Myers tilts his head curiously after impaling a victim, as if studying his work like a child, admiring an insect. That detached curiosity defines him. Michael Myers isn't motivated by reason or rage. He is evil reduced to its purest form, empty, unstoppable, and straight-up crazy. Level 2. The Gangster. Tony Montana.
Sorry for stopping your video, but you really should subscribe.
Tony Montana represents the gangster archetype at its most operatic, the immigrant who claws his way up from nothing, only to be destroyed by the same hunger that built him. A Cuban refugee with no connections, Tony seizes Miami's cocaine trade through sheer brutality and ambition. Al Pacino built the character's ferocity through months of dialect coaching and by studying boxer Roberto Duran to capture the swagger and physical menace of a man who fights like a cornered animal. Tony's famous motto, "The world is yours," encapsulates his perversion of the American dream, acquisition without restraint. Every excess, his mansion, his mountain of cocaine, his paranoia, illustrates capitalism turned cannibalistic. In the end, Tony's empire consumes him. He dies, still firing, defiant, but alone. Frank Costello. Frank Costello fits the gangster archetype because his power comes from building and managing an illicit system. Money, leverage, and loyalty are his tools. He rules South Boston through fear and favors, then protects his throne by secretly informing for federal agents, weaponizing the very system that should destroy him. Jack Nicholson shaped Costello's menace through improvisation. The character blends theatrical bravado with sudden cruelty, like the bar scene, where he batters Leonardo DiCaprio's recently broken hand just after casually chatting. Costello's creed is simple.
No one gives it to you. You have to take it.
His fatal flaw is paternal hunger. He grooms Colin Sullivan and, unknowingly, Billy Costigan as surrogate sons. That sentiment clouds his paranoia and cracks his empire. The real-world template that Nicholson used to shape the character is James Whitey Bulger. The film refracts Bulger's informant reality into a gangster who survives by making the law his disposable ally. Nino Brown. Nino Brown is the modern face of the gangster, a ruthless entrepreneur who treats crime like corporate conquest. In the crack-era chaos of 1980s Harlem, he turns addiction into empire, structuring his operation with the precision of a Fortune 500 company. Wesley Snipes approached Nino as both villain and visionary, studying real drug lords and channeling the cool authority of a man who believes capitalism justifies cruelty. His line,
"Am I my brother's keeper?"
captures the false moral code that masks his exploitation of his own community. The character's power comes not from rage but from business logic. He sells poison to his neighbors and calls it progress. By framing Nino as both predator and product of his environment, Snipes exposes the illusion of success built on suffering, a gangster who conquers his world only by destroying it. Tommy DeVito. Tommy DeVito represents the gangster stripped of charm, impulsive, volatile, and ruled entirely by ego. He doesn't build an empire, he destabilizes it. Joe Pesci crafted Tommy from memories of real street guys he knew in Newark, giving every laugh and insult a hair-trigger unpredictability. His energy dominates the screen, small in stature but towering in menace. The infamous
"Funny how"
scene was improvised from a story in Pesci's own life. That tension between humor and sudden violence defines Tommy completely. Unlike the calculating mobsters who climb through loyalty and patience, Tommy kills for pride, for insult, for the thrill of dominance. Even his friends fear him. His inevitable death, executed mid-promotion, shows the self-destructive truth of this archetype. The gangster who mistakes fear for respect and ends up consumed by the very code he worships. Bricktop. Bricktop is the gangster reduced to pure pragmatism, an aging London crime boss whose brutality is governed by efficiency, not passion. Alan Ford delivers him with chilling precision, calm voice, dead eyes, and humor so dry, it curdles. Bricktop doesn't shout or posture, he instructs. His speech about disposing of bodies by feeding them to pigs is delivered like a business tutorial, turning murder into logistics.
You need at least 16 pigs to finish the job in one sitting, so be wary of any man who keeps a pig farm.
Ford's background in working-class London gave his performance a grounded authenticity, the menace of a man who treats cruelty as routine. Unlike the flashy American mobsters, Bricktop's evil is bureaucratic. He thrives in the margins of legality, where loyalty and life are just commodities. He represents the gangster as manager, a man who long ago stopped seeing the horror in what he does. Lil Zay Pequeno. Lil Zay Pequeno embodies the gangster as a force of raw, unchecked power, born in poverty and hardened by chaos. In the slums of Rio de Janeiro, he rises from mischievous child to merciless kingpin, proving that violence can be both survival and addiction. Leandro Firmino, a non-professional actor from the actual Cidade de Deus favela, captured the role's authenticity through lived experience rather than technique. His manic energy, the grin that never reaches his eyes, turns Zay into a symbol of youth corrupted by opportunity. Every killing is impulsive, performed not for profit but for control. When he takes over the city, his tyranny mirrors the lawlessness that created him. Firmino's portrayal makes Zay terrifying, not because he's alien, but because he's inevitable. The gangster born from a world that taught him chaos is the only order. Level 3. The Revolutionary. Bane. Bane exemplifies the revolutionary archetype corrupted by deception, a militant who preaches liberation but masks tyranny beneath ideology. His rhetoric of uprising, reclaiming Gotham for the people, disguises a plot of mass destruction. Tom Hardy built Bane's presence through physical enormity and vocal experimentation, creating a voice inspired by bare-knuckle fighter Bartley Gorman, elegant yet ominously distorted. Beneath the mask, his breathing becomes mechanical punctuation, every word delivered with unnerving calm. In the stadium scene, his speech to the crowd frames chaos as justice, a populist fantasy twisted into annihilation.
Now we come here not as conquerors, but as liberators to return control of this city to the people.
Hardy gained over 30 pounds of muscle to make Bane's movements deliberate and predatory, like a human tank. Yet, his devotion to Talia al Ghul reveals a deeply personal motive. Bane's revolution is theater, his ideology a smokescreen for love, vengeance, and catastrophic faith in false liberation. Eric Killmonger. Eric Killmonger represents the revolutionary archetype with massive flaws, the villain whose ideology is righteous but methods are ruinous. Abandoned by Wakanda and shaped by American oppression, he seeks to weaponize the nation's hidden power to liberate the black diaspora through global revolt. Michael B. Jordan built Killmonger from a place of controlled fury, blending military precision with deep emotional pain. His scars, each marking a life taken, form a physical map of trauma turned into purpose. In the museum scene, his calm challenge to colonial theft exposes the moral validity behind his rage. Yet his solution, domination through violence, mirrors the very systems he condemns. Jordan described playing him as painful, because the character's truth cuts so close to real injustice. Killmonger's deathline,
"Just bury me in the ocean with my ancestors that jumped from the ships, because they knew death was better than bondage,"
transforms him into martyr and warning at the same time. The revolutionary consumed by his own fire. Magneto. Few villains embody the revolutionary spirit more completely than Magneto, a man whose righteousness and rage are inseparable. As a Holocaust survivor, Eric Lensher's entire worldview is forged in genocide. His belief that mutant kind must dominate humanity is born from the certainty that persecution always returns. Ian McKellen plays him not as a monster but as a philosopher soldier, dignified, wounded, and utterly convinced that peace is naive. His quiet delivery, especially when recounting his childhood in the concentration camps, gives his ideology moral gravity. Magneto's war is never about chaos. It's about prevention, ensuring that mutants never suffer what he did. McKellen's portrayal humanizes the archetype, the revolutionary who fights evil by becoming its reflection. His friendship with Professor Xavier deepens the tragedy, two men chasing the same dream, one through compassion, the other through conquest. Koba. Koba embodies revolution corrupted by trauma. Once a test subject for cruel human experiments, his scars are both literal and ideological. Every lash of pain becomes proof that coexistence is impossible. Toby Kebbell's motion capture performance turns this wounded ape into a mirror of human cruelty. His twitching face and burning eyes carry the rage of a survivor who can no longer distinguish justice from revenge. When Caesar seeks peace, Koba sees betrayal. To him, mercy is weakness. His leadership transforms rebellion into genocide, proving how righteous anger can curdle into fanaticism. Kebbell studied footage of real primates to ground Koba's physicality, giving each movement the weight of instinct fused with vengeance. The moment he declares,
Caesar, God aims follow Koba. No.
seals his downfall, the revolutionary consumed by his own justification for violence. Bill the Butcher, cutting. Bill the Butcher cutting is the revolutionary shaped by nationalism and decay, a man fighting to preserve a world that is already dying. In 19th century New York, his crusade against Irish immigrants is framed as patriotism. He believes he is defending America's purity from invasion. Daniel Day-Lewis immersed himself completely into the role, studying 19th century gang culture, sharpening real knives on set, and maintaining character off-camera for months. His performance radiates conviction. Every speech, every glare, every controlled breath feels like a sermon. Bill's violence is political theater, a bloody statement about ownership and belonging. What makes him terrifying is his honesty. He truly believes his brutality is civic duty. Day-Lewis turns Bill into both prophet and relic, a revolutionary who mistakes preservation for progress and becomes the ghost of a country built on exclusion. Level 4. The Fallen Hero. Darth Vader. Darth Vader is tragedy embodied, the hero who becomes the villain through fear disguised as love. Once Anakin Skywalker, the prophesied chosen one, he falls not from greed but from desperation to save those he loves. Hayden Christensen's portrayal captures this inner collapse. His monotone delivery and restrained emotion hint at a man suffocating beneath destiny.
No. I am your father.
Insisting on wearing the iconic armor himself, Christensen brought physical authenticity to Vader's mechanical weight. Every movement feels like penance. His transformation is symbolized by fire and confinement, the human spirit buried beneath machinery. What makes him a fallen hero rather than a pure tyrant is the faint flicker of conscience that never fully dies. When he finally turns against the Emperor, it is not redemption through power, but through surrender. The moment he remembers what it means to love without control. Colonel Kurtz. Colonel Kurtz represents the moment when brilliance and morality part ways. Once a decorated officer, he becomes disillusioned with the hypocrisy of war and chooses to embrace its savagery completely. Marlon Brando's performance turns that descent into something mythic, filmed mostly in shadow to conceal both the character's bloated body and his moral decay. Brando arrived on set overweight and unprepared. Yet through improvisation, he reshaped Kurtz into a prophet of horror. His shaved head and whispered monologues give him the aura of a dying god, a man who has seen too much and gone too far. When he murmurs, "Horror," it's not confession, but revelation. He has accepted that madness is the only truth left in war. Harvey Dent, aka Two-Face. Harvey Dent is Gotham's broken promise, the hero who collapses under the weight of his own ideals. As the city's White Knight, he believes justice can be achieved through law. But when chaos takes everything he loves, he embraces the Joker's philosophy that fairness only exists in chance. Aaron Eckhart modeled Dent's conviction after Robert F. Kennedy. Idealistic, moral, yet capable of simmering anger. The physical transformation into Two-Face externalizes his internal fracture, one half human, the other scarred and exposed. His coin, once a symbol of hope, becomes the instrument of judgment. Eckhart plays him with tragic restraint, rage always just beneath control. Harvey's fall is the film's moral center, a man who proves the Joker right without realizing it. Brigadier General Frank Hummel. Brigadier General Frank Hummel is the portrait of duty turned defiance, a soldier whose moral compass collapses under betrayal. Decorated and loyal, he spends decades watching his men die in secret missions only for their sacrifices to be erased by their own government. Ed Harris grounds him in weary conviction, rigid posture, clipped speech, and eyes that burn with both pride and regret. When Hummel seizes Alcatraz and threatens to launch chemical weapons, it is not greed driving him, it is outrage. His goal is restitution for the forgotten dead. Yet his rebellion, noble in motive, collapses under the weight of those who follow him for money and chaos. Even in surrender, he spares civilians, proving he was never a monster. Hummel's downfall embodies the tragedy of the soldier who serves honor until honor turns its back. Level 5. The Mastermind. Kaiser Soze. Kaiser Soze is the purest form of the mastermind, a villain who wins not through power or violence but through perception. Hidden in plain sight as the timid verbal Kint, he manipulates everyone around him, crafting a story so intricate that truth and fiction become indistinguishable. Kevin Spacey's calm, delivery, and subtle body language transform passivity into strategy. Every nervous glance conceals orchestration. His defining act, murdering his own family to prove no one can control him, cements his mythic status. Off-screen, Spacey heightened the illusion by removing his name from marketing to preserve the twist. When Verbal's limp straightens during his walk from the police station, the transformation is complete. The lie becomes legend. Hans Gruber. Hans Gruber redefined the cinematic villain by replacing brute force with intellect and charm. A thief disguised as a terrorist, he stages his heist as a political act to conceal its true simplicity. Greed executed with elegance. Alan Rickman approached the role with theatrical precision. His deep, measured cadence and poised gestures make Gruber feel educated, even cultured. The tailored suit was his own suggestion, a deliberate rejection of the militant stereotype in favor of refinement. His dialogue, delivered with effortless wit, turns every hostage negotiation into psychological chess. When he poses as an American hostage to deceive John McClane, Rickman's seamless accent shift reveals the mind of a consummate manipulator. In the director's effort to add to the realism, his death, falling in slow motion from Nakatomi Plaza, was captured by surprise, the camera catching genuine fear on Rickman's face. Hans Landa. Hans Landa is intellect turned into weapon, a detective who hunts humans with charm and logic instead of rage. Fluent in 4 languages, he treats interrogation as performance, smiling while cornering his prey with precision. Christoph Waltz built the role through linguistic mastery and meticulous rhythm. Every line delivered like music hiding malice. Quentin Tarantino nearly abandoned the film until Waltz auditioned. His command of tone made the unplayable role effortless. Landa's first scene, sipping milk while calmly exposing a family hidden beneath the floorboards, demonstrates his genius, polite, courteous, and terrifyingly methodical. What separates him from zealots is indifference. His loyalty shifts to whoever ensures survival. Waltz captured that opportunism with disarming grace, making Landa fascinating instead of monstrous. He represents evil as intellect without empathy, the man who treats genocide as negotiation and calls it work. Dr. Hannibal Lecter. Dr. Hannibal Lecter is civilization's darkest reflection, the monster hiding behind perfect manners. A brilliant psychiatrist and cannibal, he manipulates not with brute strength, but with intellect sharpened to a razor's edge. Anthony Hopkins designed his stillness deliberately. He barely blinks, his eyes tracking Clarice Starling like a predator studying prey. The calmness of his voice, modeled after Katharine Hepburn and HAL 9000, turns each line into psychological hypnosis. Hopkins even suggested the white uniform instead of the orange prison suit, knowing that purity would be more unsettling than filth. His infamous fava beans and a nice Chianti moment, punctuated by that chilling slurp, was improvised.
A census taker once tried to test me. I ate his liver with some fava beans and a nice Chianti.
A flash of playfulness in horror. Lecter is the mastermind elevated to art, evil wrapped in refinement, proving intellect can be more terrifying than violence. Level 6. The Symbol. The Joker. The Joker exists to expose the illusion of order. He is not a criminal, but a philosophy wearing grease paint. Heath Ledger locked himself in a hotel room for weeks to build that chaos from the inside out, journaling disturbing thoughts, sketching masks, and crafting a warped psychology that made sense only to itself. He designed the smeared makeup himself using cheap cosmetics, insisting it should look like something applied by an unsteady hand. His voice, shrill, mocking, and unstable, shifts with each mood, a reflection of his belief that identity is meaningless. In every scene, he dismantles systems. From burning money to corrupting Harvey Dent, his actions serve one purpose: to prove that morality is fragile. Ledger's improvisations, including the hospital detonation mishap, amplified that unpredictability. Agent Smith. Agent Smith is order given form, the machine's perfect enforcer who grows to hate the world he was built to protect. Initially, a program designed to maintain balance within the Matrix, he evolves into something more human and more dangerous, a being driven by disgust. Hugo Weaving constructed Smith's clipped diction and neutral accent to sound precise but unnatural, an intelligence mimicking authority without understanding emotion. His speech to Morpheus, calling humanity a virus, defines his philosophy, control masquerading as purity.
A virus. Human beings are a disease.
When Neo destroys him, Smith's resurrection as a self-replicating virus reveals the irony of his evolution. He becomes what he most despised. Weaving's performance balances cold symmetry with flashes of rage, showing the cost of consciousness without compassion. Tyler Durden. Tyler Durden is the rebellion within conformity, the charismatic ghost born from a man's psychological collapse. He represents everything the narrator represses: freedom, confidence, violence, and destruction, and becomes the embodiment of anti-consumerist rage. Brad Pitt infused Tyler with reckless magnetism, his casual grin and anarchic confidence turn nihilism into seduction. The character's speeches about rejecting materialism and embracing chaos strike a dangerous balance between revelation and delusion. Tyler's creation of Project Mayhem transforms personal liberation into collective madness, individuality weaponized into ideology. Pitt trained for the film's brutal fight scenes, ensuring every punch felt ritualistic, almost spiritual. What makes Tyler unforgettable is the irony of his message. He preaches freedom while demanding submission. When the narrator realizes they are one and the same, it completes the loop. Tyler Durden becomes the idea that destroys its believer. Level 7, the God Complex. Thanos. Thanos views himself as savior, not tyrant, a being who believes that mercy requires extermination. His conviction that the universe must be balanced defines the God Complex archetype, moral certainty elevated to divine authority. Josh Brolin's motion capture performance gives the Titan quiet gravity, his movements slow and deliberate, his voice calm enough to make genocide sound reasonable. The key to Thanos' menace lies in belief. He doesn't crave power for its own sake, but purpose. His tearful sacrifice of Gamora proves his faith is absolute. Emotion bends to ideology. By the time he snaps his fingers, he has achieved peace not through love, but subtraction. Brolin's portrayal humanizes the impossible, the villain who wins because he truly believes he's right. Thanos isn't a monster pretending to be a god. He's a god convinced he's merciful. Amon Gut. Amon Gut embodies power without conscience, a man who mistakes cruelty for authority. As the commandant of a Nazi labor camp, he sees himself as judge and executioner, reducing human lives to targets on his balcony. Ray Fiennes approached Gut not as a caricature of evil, but as a banal bureaucrat intoxicated by control. His calmness, often lounging shirtless with a cigarette, makes his bursts of violence chillingly casual. Steven Spielberg instructed Fiennes to find Gut's human side, and that subtlety made him monstrous, a man capable of tenderness for his maid one moment and murder the next. Gut's self-perception as superior defines the God Complex. He kills not for necessity, but for affirmation. Fiennes' dead-eyed stare captures that corruption perfectly. He doesn't see himself as evil, only efficient. Calvin J. Candy. Calvin J. Candy rules his Mississippi plantation, Candyland, like a deity presiding over a private hell. His intellect is shallow, yet his arrogance absolute. He mistakes privilege for enlightenment. Leonardo DiCaprio designed Candy's southern charm as a mask for sadism, wrapping brutality in silk and civility. During the infamous dinner scene, DiCaprio smashed his hand on real glass and continued the take, bleeding while never breaking character. A moment that captures Candy's delusional sense of control. His obsession with phrenology and racial hierarchy defines the God Complex. He believes science and lineage justify domination. Every smile, every toast, every word of faux gentility conceals the terror of a man terrified to lose power. Tarantino frames him like a monarch surrounded by sycophants, charming, educated, and utterly hollow. John Doe. John Doe sees himself as divine instrument, a prophet chosen to reveal humanity's corruption through terror. Each of his murders follows the 7 deadly sins, crafted as moral lessons rather than crimes. Once again, wanting to preserve the sensationalism of his inevitable entrance into the film, Kevin Spacey insisted on removing his name from the film's marketing to preserve the shock of his appearance. A decision that amplified the character's mythic presence. Doe's calm, monotone, and meticulous logic make him eerily convincing. He never raises his voice because he believes he's already won. The gruesome detail of his crimes contrasts with his clinical detachment, turning each scene into ritual. His surrender to police is not confession but calculation. He needs an audience for his final sermon. When he forces Detective Mills into completing the sin of wrath, Doe achieves his twisted transcendence. He doesn't seek forgiveness or power, only proof that even justice bleeds. If this deep dive kept you hooked, the one on your screen is going to blow your mind, so go check it out next.